Yo, what is good, YouTube? Welcome back to another JC2K video. In today's video, I'm going to be talking about 5 gameplay improvements that I want to see in NBA 2K25 MyTEAM. Because I think that gameplay was honestly almost as big of a part in the disaster that was 2K24 MyTEAM as the gambling-only style of content was. Obviously, the gambling-only style content was what completely did this mode in over the past 4 or 5 months. And I think up until then, the game was actually decent, despite the fact that the gameplay itself was not in a super great spot. So with that being said, I think there are some tweaks that they can make for 2K25 to gameplay that would really help, because here's my opinion. Honestly, I enjoyed 2K24 gameplay in Season 1. I did. Season 1, I played the game a ton. I probably had 120, 130 unlimited games. I was playing the game a lot, and I was honestly enjoying playing it as well. And then the patch at the beginning of Season 2 ruined pretty much everything in my mind in a lot of ways. And I think also some gameplay exploits defensively and stuff have really made this game not very fun to play online for a lot of people as well. So I got some things that I'd like to see tweaked in 2K25 to create a better game. And also one thing that I do want to talk about that I actually think they did well in 2K24 with gameplay that I hope continues. So before we hop into the video, if you haven't already, make sure you hit that subscribe button. Help me push towards the 30,000 subscriber mark on the channel. I upload every single day. Would really appreciate it if y'all do subscribe. Without further ado, let's hop right into it. I have not played a single game of Unlimited this season. I don't think I played a single game of Unlimited last season. I have very rarely played the game online as of late, but I mean, I played a lot of Clutch Online this year. I did play a lot of that. Played a lot of Triple Threat Online this year. Like I played the game a good amount for a while. So, and again, for those of you who don't know me, just throwing this out there, I made the Final Four for the $250,000 tournament 2 years ago. Like, I know what I'm talking about. I'm very good at the game. I am coming from a perspective of somebody who actually has played the game a ton. So I'm not just talking out my butt as somebody who hasn't played the game much recently, because I know I haven't played it as much recently. I know what I'm talking about, and I just want to share my thoughts with y'all, and hopefully to people out there who might be listening about the things that hopefully could be tweaked in 2K25. So, number 1, the worst thing about this year's gameplay, in my opinion, was the contest system. I think the contest system has allowed and enabled people to play defense in a way that is going to lead into my next point, which is about off-ball switch all. The contest system this year, when it was tweaked after Season 1, kind of ruined the way this game was played. Now, I understand in Season 1, I think lightlies might have almost been a little bit too easy to green at times, but here's the thing. It was fun. You could shoot shots. You could create space. You weren't limited in terms of the shots you could shoot, but the contest system all year was a problem. When they patched it in Season 2 and made it to where all of a sudden these contests slowed down your jumper, sped up your jumper, all that type of stuff, that can't be a thing. Just because you get contested I mean, it happens on opens. That's the crazy thing. It happens on opens sometimes. It's not something that's just happening on 50% contested shots. It's happening on opens and 8% slightlies and stuff. And your jumper gets way slowed down or way sped up at different times, and it just makes it a completely impossible shot to hit. I understand that's a stamina thing as well to a certain extent when that happens at times, but it's not always a stamina thing. Sometimes it just happens for no reason, and it shouldn't be a stamina thing anyway. The way the contest system works needs to be one of 2 ways. Either you need to be able to green some of the shots that you were able to hit in Season 1 this year and really weren't able to hit consistently for the rest of the year, or the contest system needs to be toned back a little bit. A little bit harder to get a contest, because CPUs just get crazy contests in this game and have all year, with the exception of pretty much the Patty Mills base and a couple of those really glitchy park bases that we don't get in MyTEAM until May and June anyway. The contest system is just gassed, and it prevents you in a lot of ways from being able to 3-hunt, being able to shot create, being able to score the ball from the outside the way that I think a lot of people would like to, especially if you're not a great player. It just becomes really hard to get threes off if you're not a particularly good player and you're playing against a solid defensive player. Like, it's just, I think the contest system screwed up this gameplay a lot and made it a lot less fun, and especially, even more importantly, you can't have shots getting sped up and slowed down basically at a whim. Like, that was one of the most frustrating things for me this year in the gameplay, was the fact that you shoot a shot that you think is open, or maybe it is open even, and is ungreenable because it gets slowed down half a second, and you're not adjusting to that. You can't time that, or it gets sped up on a late closeout all of a sudden. Like the way the contest system worked this year, the shots that were contested way higher than they should be, the way that shots were just completely made totally unmakeable, just ruined, I think, in a lot of ways, the online gameplay. And that carries over into the off-ball switch all, which is my second point. The way that people off-ball in the corner and put their defense on switch all has really handicapped the way that online MyTEAM is played. And I think it makes it for the casual player just super unfun, because yes, it is beatable and I know how to beat it. It is not hard particularly to beat, but you have to play. There's only one way to really play when you're playing against off-ball switch all, and that is rejecting a screen and hitting your slip, or creating the switch with a player who is much shorter than the player who's your screener, throw it down to your screener and mash the height disadvantage. That's about the only way to attack it, or to backdoor the player that they're off-balling off of. Like, those are pretty much your only ways to attack that off-ball switch all. It completely takes away the ability to do anything when it comes to coming off of screens, running offense, being able to have more versatility to your offense, and it's the lowest skill defense in the game. Off ball, just sitting in the corner, was better this year than it has ever been, especially with these switch all defensive settings and stuff that people were using. And it is, the CPU should not play defense for you at a high level. It just shouldn't. You should, if you're off-balling the on-ball player, the player with the ball in their hands, and it's a player who's skilled at dribbling, a skillful dribbler should be able to beat an off-ball defender every single possession, bar none. In 2K21, 2K22, people off-balled, but it got destroyed by a good player. Now it still kind of does if you know what you're doing and you're able to play smartly, but it's certainly not the way that it used to be, where you could just slide a CPU and then shoot over them. That's the way it should be in this game, and that's the way it should be in 2K25 as well. Players should not get rewarded for playing no defense at all and just sitting in the corner, and that should not be a more effective defensive strategy than playing at least somewhat on ball, clicking on and contesting, and then rotating off the ball defensively. Playing a hybrid style of defense that takes more takes more stick skill should be more effective, and it is at an elite level. But even at a lower level, you should be able to have more effectiveness when you are playing on ball defense or half on ball defense and trying to rotate behind it and stuff like that, than just sitting in the corner and letting your CPUs do everything. And that was one of my biggest complaints with the gameplay this year, for sure. That really frustrated me in a lot of ways. Number 3. This isn't quite as big of a deal, but I think fades need to be nerfed. 2K said fades were going to be nerfed this year. They really weren't. Fading threes have, for a couple years now in MyTEAM, really since 2K22 Next Gen, been just I think it's even 2K21 Next Gen, have just been obnoxious. They're always way too good. They're one of the only ways to really consistently get off threes. And if you're going to make the contest system a little bit less gassed, I think you have to balance that with making fades less gassed as well, because fades have been one of the only ways to consistently get off threes the last couple years. But if they tone down the contest system and let people actually three hunt and create more shots and shoot more standstill shots with a wider variety of jumpers that isn't just Patty Mills, I think that will create a situation where you don't need fades as much. Fades are not a super big part of basketball. I'm not saying that slow fades should be ungreenable. I'm not saying it should be impossible to green a fade, but you also don't see guys just sprinting off of screens, running to the corner and fading away and chucking the ball up at the rim. Like, that's not the way that basketball is played in real life. But in MyTEAM, if you got the Pro 2 fade or the Trey fade or whatever the case may be, you just running off of screens and fading all game. Like, that's literally a lot of people's main form of offense when it comes to shooting the three ball. And like, it's just too easy. Fades need to be toned down. They said they were going to be this year. They weren't. Hopefully they will be next year. Number 4, backdoors. I think backdoors are good when it comes to playing against a player who's maybe playing deny ball defensively, or against an off baller, again, to backdoor the player that they're sitting on at their off ball. But the main problem that I have with backdoors is not that they work against the CPU, although I do think they should work a little less effectively against the CPU if the CPU's in like moderate or gap coverage off the ball. But the main problem that I have with with backdoors is that you can't really like click on and rotate to stop the backdoors at an effective level. If you click onto the player and then they send a backdoor on the player that you're guarding, you can't react to it in time. Your player is like a split second delayed almost every single time, and it prevents you from being able to, unless you anticipate the backdoor, it basically prevents you from being able to guard the backdoor. And I'm sure all of y'all who play online have played against people who literally scored 75% of their points off of backdoors. It is incredibly frustrating to play. And even when you are actively anticipating the backdoors and trying to stop backdoors specifically, it will still work at a high level. It should not be as effective as it is. And I think backdoors are just too easy and just too effective. And I think players need to be a little bit more responsive, or it needs to be a little bit harder for the backdoor to get open with consistency, to hopefully create a little bit more balance there and force people again to try to score with a little bit more skill. The final thing, and I don't know exactly how to quantify this, but the algo this year was nuts. It was. I feel like the algo this year was the worst it's ever been in terms of just playing certain games where literally nothing goes your way the whole game. Every animation is favoring the defensive player. It seems like you can't create any space. The off-ball CPU is just on absolute steroids. Like, I've played so many games this year that have just been like, the game doesn't want me to win. And then I've played games this year where it's like, I can't do anything wrong. No matter what I do, it's going to work out and score me the ball. The algo's in my favor in that situation. Like, it's problematic. The game should be less algo driven, and it should be more driven by a balanced game that is rewarding both players at least semi-equally. And I understand that it is an animation-based game and not everything is going to be perfect all the time, but it does seem that there is an actual pre-programmed algo that switches who is favored and who is getting favored by the game and who is getting the things to go their way. And whatever has contributed to this algorithm that happens this year, it needs to stop and it needs to go away, because it is just the most annoying thing in the world. I mean, it really is. It's so frustrating having to deal with algo on a weekly basis, on a daily basis playing this game. And I think that's the other thing that I would really like to see change. So that's 5 things right there that I would like to see tweaked about gameplay, starting with the contest system. Then you got switch all and the X switch and the off ball. Not the X switch. I don't have as much of a problem with X switching, because X switching is a skillful thing defensively. You're clicking on, you're manually switching, you have to recover it yourself. I think off ball switch all is just too easy mode for like training wheels, basically, for people. Got to make fades harder, got to fix backdoors, and got to fix the algo. The one thing that I hope they don't tweak for 2K25 is the paint defense. I think they actually did a good job this year of finding balance between the way that height works and the way that get positioning and contests work. Bad shots don't go in the paint as much, regardless of height. Although if you have a huge height advantage, it will still work. Like, for example, if you have Victor Wembanyama, you're shooting over Chris Paul, you're still going to make the shot in all likelihood in the paint, even if it's a contested quote-unquote shot and they're in a good position. But I feel like height is less important than it's been in previous years. It is easier to get a contest and get a stop with a shorter player in a matchup against a taller player. And I think they actually did a pretty good job of finding a balance there this year, where mashing isn't exceedingly OP, but it is also relatively effective to attack a height mismatch. And I think that was actually something that they did a pretty good job of, and it's something that I hope continues in the future. So with that being said, I think that is where I'm going to call this video. Just wanted to share my thoughts. I'm sure many of y'all disagree with me, and that is totally fine if you don't agree. These are my thoughts on the things that I would like to see changed in 2K25 MyTEAM gameplay wise, and I'd love to know y'all's thoughts. So feel free to leave me a comment in the comment section down below and let me know what y'all think of my opinions and of my ideas. And if you did enjoy the video, make sure you hit that like button, leave a comment, and subscribe. I'll be back with more 2K content very, very soon, and I appreciate y'all. Peace.